I'm Austin Bussing. I'm in the College of Humanities and Social Sciences, Department of Political Science. I just recently finished my PhD in political science at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Prior to that, I had been at the University of Texas and University of Kansas for undergrad. I'm a big Jayhawk sports fan. That's my affiliation, above all else. I mean, maybe now secondarily to being a Bearcat. And my area of expertise is studying American political institutions, primarily the US Congress.
My name is Fan, the first name F-A-N and last name L-I-A-N-G. So I currently in the computer science department in Sam Houston State University. And I was graduated from Towson University in Maryland. In Towson University, I have a 5 years research experience, and I finished my doctorate degree over there. And also my master's degree, I got my master's degree in Massachusetts. And after that, I have a 2 years industry experience in Deloitte and as a coder, as a developer. And then I went to the Towson University to finish my doctorate degree. And also I have a 7 years industry experience in China in computer science and in network industry. So that is my background. And now I'm an assistant professor in computer science department. And this is my first semester. I teach actually 3 courses, include the Java data structure and computer organization.
My name is Jacqueline Wilkich. I am in the accounting department at Sam Houston. And so in general, my professional background before academia, I was a CPA, and I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio area. I actually had been at Sam Houston before, about 2012. My husband actually got a job at Sam Houston. We were living in Pittsburgh, and so we moved down there, and I was actually the assistant controller there for a while, and then moved over to actually be a lecturer in the accounting department. So I did get to teach a little bit beforehand, and then I left and got my PhD and finished, and then got to come back as an assistant professor in the accounting department. So that was really nice to come back to Sam Houston.
I have always just been of the impression that understanding government is just very important. And when I finally came to terms with the fact or realized that I could make a career just trying to better understand government, that was a pretty intriguing path for me. And it took some twists and turns here and there, but eventually this is the path that I ended up on. And I would also have to credit my just professors and teachers that I've had throughout my life in, first of all, showing by example that this is something that you can do, and by inspiring and sort of furthering my interests in these topics.
So because, I like teaching. And when I teach somebody, I think, first of all, I need to earn, or I need to have more experience or knowledge than the people who I want to teach for. So that's why I want to go deeper for the research side. And when I do some research, beyond the research, actually I can use some knowledge from the research and bring the knowledge to the class and teach the students and something like the new technologies. So that makes sense for the students to learn more about the technology rather than only read the book or read the slides. And also, I have a 7 years industry experience in China, and also I have a 2 years industry experience in the United States. So when I do some work, I really feel that I need to learn more and know the deeper things, the back end things. So because of that, I want to go deeper, and that's why I pursue my doctorate degree in Towson University.
Well, I actually, if you would have asked me when I finished my master's if I was ever going back to school again, I would have told you absolutely not. But as time went on, I married somebody that was pursuing his PhD and, saw what it afforded him. Now he's in a different discipline, but while it provides a lot of stress and rigor, it also comes with the ability to have a little bit more flexibility in your schedule and to continue to learn. And I've always enjoyed learning. And so when I had an opportunity to dip my toe in it as a lecturer at Sam Houston, I absolutely loved it. And there was no going back to a regular job for me. So, having great professors that as a student and my experience as a lecturer really solidified the direction I wanted to take for my career long term.
A couple of different things that I'm working on right now. One of them is sort of a historical archival project that looks at the tensions between the US as an imperial power, as essentially an empire with territories, and the US as a democracy. So democracy and empire are kind of in this, irresolvable tension with one another. And what I'm looking at specifically in this project is the extension of congressional representation to people living in the US territories. So an example of this is we acquired the Virgin Islands in 1917. People living in the Virgin Islands didn't have any representation in Congress until 1972, at which point they were granted a non-voting delegate in the House. And so in this project, I'm just looking at congressional debates surrounding, are we going to create a position to represent these people? And if so, what are the sort of powers of that position? So that's one project. I'm working on something else where we look at how the changing and evolving procedures that are used in the legislative process in the US House affect the way that we measure legislator ideology and polarization. And I guess there's a normatively pleasing outcome of that part of the research, which is that we find that a lot of reforms that have centralized legislative power in party leadership actually don't seem to be driving polarization, but seem to be in some ways building towards bipartisan compromise, which I think most people will find hard to believe, but that's something I'm working on and publishing things from that research agenda. And so you can find that stuff and read it once it's out there if you're not convinced.
The current research, actually, I have several research branch. The first one is IoT, the Internet of Things. So I focus on the performance optimization for the IoT devices and IoT system. And second one is machine learning, AI kinds of thing, because the IoT system generates a lot of data, and machine learning is a possible tools to analyze those data. So we want to combine this machine learning data analysis tool and the IoT data to solve some real problems. And also because we know a lot of digital product, and we somebody want to sell the digital product, or somebody want to sell the digital, for example, the data sets, and how to price those data sets. That is another branch for me. So I focus on the pricing problem for the digital items rather than the photos, the videos, or some unstructured data sets. That's a 3 different branch. And also, because this is my first semester, and I applied the new faculty grants, the inside of the internal grants in Sam Houston State University. And that thing is focused on the IoT performance optimization.
My research, a lot of people would consider to be more on the cusp of accounting, because I focus on the intersection of corporate governance and ESG reporting or sustainability reporting. ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance. And so a lot of people think that should not be considered accounting, but when it comes to any of these voluntary disclosures and reporting, it absolutely 100% falls into the realm of accounting. And it can have a lot of material impacts on the financial statements eventually in one way, shape, or form. And so it's, for me and a lot of people that research in this area, it absolutely is an accounting issue, but I do feel like I have to defend myself sometimes.
So my ultimate goal, I would say, is just to increase, I mean, first of all, honestly, to increase my own understanding of specifically Congress and the way that legislatures work, but also just to increase understanding in general. I mean, I think legislatures are in many ways a beautiful thing. This is supposed to be a representative body in which people from all over the country come together, deliberate, debate, and end up passing legislation. That sort of stylized and idealistic way of thinking about it is not quite the way it works in practice. But people also have this cynical view that it's just the party leaders running everything and it's the majority party steamrolling over the minority. And that, I think, is equally divorced from reality, but on the other side. And so finding the way that that Congress actually works is something that's always motivated me, and I hope to continue making progress in that area. And, you know, thinking about political institutions as a space in which conflict and disagreement is supposed to occur, right? So often we think that the problem is that we disagree, and if we could just come up with some sort of political system that would eradicate disagreement, we would have solved the problems with government. But I think that that's not the right way to think about it. I think political institutions like Congress as a space in which contestation can occur, often so that it doesn't have to occur violently outside of that space, is the way that, you know, we should be understanding these institutions.
Okay, that is a really hard question. Actually, I think nobody has an ultimate goal for the research, because actually nobody knows how far they can go, right? So I just want to try my best, and because, you know, in our university we have we need to set a goal: how many % for the teaching, how many % for the research, and how many % for other things. So definitely I put 30% on teaching, 30% on research, and other, I think, the 40% for the service and the administration. So based on the time, I think before I got the 10-year evaluation, before that, I definitely want to apply some external grant, and in order to support my research and support my students. And then based on that, I want to go as far as I can to the end of my research life.
You know, ESG reporting is still sort of in an infancy stage, particularly in the United States. Everything is still mostly voluntary. And so it's sort of like this black box of, you know, what makes good reporting? What are the factors that encourage good reporting? What are the factors that inhibit good reporting? And really, what is good reporting? And so if I can chip away at any of those questions, I feel that I will have made a contribution.
Hi, first of all. You know, feel free to come by the 4th floor of SHSU and stop in and say hi. You know, let me know where you are and what you're doing. I guess I'll watch these videos and find out. And let's, you know, get together and talk about cool stuff, see what we can learn and see what we can teach each other.
Okay, so first, this is my pleasure to have this opportunity to work in Sam Houston State University and work with all the excellent people in my department. And I also now is half of this semester. So during this first half of the semester, a lot of senior faculties and another senior staffs helped me a lot. For example, set up my office, give me a tour, and show me how to use the infrastructure to teaching, and also talk with me frequently, and include the teaching, researching, and also we have a lot of talk about our life around the university and the area, something like that. So that is very helpful. And also some faculties bring me his or her doctoral students to me, and during the talking with the doctoral students, I know all the requirements for the doctoral students in our department, and that's helped me to set my short period goal for my research and for my teaching. And I want to say this is really a good place for myself, and for both teaching and research. There are a lot of opportunities. So anyway, thanks everybody. Bring me to the Sam Houston University, and definitely I will try my best. Yeah.
To my fellow faculty, I would just like to say thanks for welcoming me back. And I'm happy to be part of this community again, but now even in a stronger research way, so that I can contribute in that way. Before I didn't have those skills, and now I do. So I'm happy to try to contribute in that way.